I got a bone. Are you all like audioed up and everything? Yeah, all good. Yeah, excellent. Good.
Can you hear this?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all right. Try not to tap it because
that's why
it's hit and miss with that.
Things down here. Right?
All right. Okay. Yeah. Can I just say?
Yeah, go on.
You dragged me away from Colombo with 15 minutes.
You could have done it.
15 minutes to go. I could have, and I did say to you, I was watching Colombo. 15 minutes.
I said I've got to get home, and I did say to you after all. I did send you a picture of the breakfast from the Canadian brewery. I think we're going from IHOP now to Canadian brewery.
Yeah, because IHOP is just so uncouth. Big fat plate breakfast is what you want.
But this is even bigger.
Is that the place that had the shooting?
Yeah, that's right. Across the back. Yeah, they came out of there.
Did they? Went for breakfast?
Yeah, apparently the guy was sitting on a bench waiting for him. And they walked out and he started shooting at him. And then they ran to the thing and he threw a bomb at him.
But
bloody useless assassin.
Yeah, well, Canadian.
4 times he's tried.
Canadian assassins, they never get a job.
Yeah, they run while he's saying sorry.
Sorry. Honest to God. Jesus. Right. Anyway.
You fight before? Yeah. You good? Yeah, I'm good. Good defense? Yeah. But train different in America. Your defense stinks.
You are the new student. Come closer.
You're listening to the Kung Fu Podcast presented by James Still.
I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry.
And Steve Newby.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career.
So, everybody. Yeah, we're just going straight into it. We're on podcast 44.
Wow.
Yeah, 44 of these bloody things,
And we've started talking about martial arts a little bit.
Well, as a matter of fact, welcome everybody, by the way. My name's James Still, and I'm joined by Mr. Steve Newby, my teacher from Canada. Hello, Steve.
Good day.
Right.
Doesn't sound like Canadian, does it?
What part of Australia from? Right. Okay. So we have had, this is going back a while now, actually. I've got some stuff I want to talk about, but before we get into, this is one of the things I want to talk about. So back about 3 months ago, some guy left a comment on one of the YouTube videos, and he said, can you make a video about Ging power and the training of Ging, or the Phoenix Eye Fist and how you make it in Laugar? And I got back to him. I said, yeah, no problem. Yeah, consider it in the works. I totally forgot about it. And I obviously never told you. So we will talk about that briefly to start with. So we'll talk about that. And then I want to talk about what's the point in points fighting, because, that's quite an interesting subject for all you, traditionalists out there, full contact people, and what's the point in that? Well, we'll get to that because it's very interesting. But that'll be a good one. That I say that I built it up, and we'll just end up jabbering But anyway, let's go. Let's start.
You're the one that does all the homework. I'm the one that just listens and go, yeah.
You just drop in. You're like, bloody hell. Was like Forrest Gump in and out of people's lives. All right, yeah. It's like right. Okay, so Ging power. What is it? What can we make of it? How do you train it? all those things. Talk to me. Talk to me, old man.
It?
Well, I'm throwing out all the questions that,
Okay, well,
Go
because I'm a layman, I'll say it as a layman.
Go on, then.
Okay, Ging. Imagine that you've got to push a van, right?
Yeah.
And so when you push a van, you don't just like push it. You are now when you're lifting a weight, you know what you're doing? Bring it up, cough, right? Basically, that's the way it works. It's just a cough.
It's just
that's the best way to describe it. Is boom.
Listen, so you're saying if you smoke 20 Marlboro Red a day, you've got good ging. Is that it?
Yeah, but people misunderstand.
Right.
Some kind of. It's one of those things that everyone thinks is a magical element,
right?
And yet weightlifters do it all the time.
Okay.
People who lift heavy objects whenever work do it all the time, and people that if you punch, it's not the same as so it's a short, sharp explosion of energy, and the best way to describe it is cough.
Is a cough. Now, is it
the
like?
Best way to describe it.
Is it like the Qi? Qi.
Well, that's basically what it's for,
right.
Isn't it? That Qi, kind of thing.
Right.
That's what it's for. So it's the same process. It's the same.
Okay.
Approach. I guess.
Is it more? Is it more mental or physical? What are we talking about?
We're looking at physical.
Right.
It's a physical.
So it's not just like psyching yourself up,
No. It's a physical development. Like I say, it's a cough. It's like a grunt of energy, a sharp grunt of energy.
Right.
So if you want to pull someone off you, for instance, it's just a boom kind of cough.
Can we confuse that with like a bounce and stuff like that? Is it the same thing?
Uses the same energy.
So same energy, right?
Depend on how you do it. But if you put Ging into every single move you made in a form, you just wouldn't survive the form
because it's a lot of effort.
Just boom, 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 boom all the time, and it'd be very iffy, very, very bitty, very sort of stop-start.
Right.
So that's why you end up with people doing certain moves again, like in karate, for instance. They do a certain move, da 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 da, at the end, kind of thing, and that's the kind of thing they're trying to use. They may not understand it as that, but it's the same process.
Well,
it's not like a magical energy. It's
just why not? Why not? Come on. Why can't it be?
Because there are any magical enemies.
All right.
There's no such thing as a secret, just something you don't know yet.
Right. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Remember the 3 secrets: train harder, still train even harder than that.
Those are pretty important.
Those are the secrets of
right. Relating it to Lao Ga, right? Mm-hmm. If you could, like you said, you can put Ging in any form, right? But the question is, do you really want to? A blatant example of Ging would be a blatant one, like just would be the third set in Sharp Choi, right? Yeah, so I'm saying that any set, but if we're looking at Sharp Choi, what have we got? Like 7 shouts in it, right? So each one of those shouts could be Ging.
If you can appreciate it, yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's just a simple explanation pertaining it to Lao. But
I really apologize for being so basic and so simple, but that's what it is. It's just that sometimes people do, whole interviews or whole, programs,
right,
creating the secrecy of some energy, and then in the end, it just comes out as that's it. There it is.
Right. So some people
so secret.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you can forgive people for watching. There's so much way out there stuff to do with kung fu on internet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it possible? And remember, I'm asking these questions. I'm just voicing it. Is it possible to generate Ging? And what I mean by that is it possible to manifest it as opposed to sort of project it? Do you know what I mean? Like create it.
Well, you are creating it in that.
So it's not a separate thing.
No,
it's not like
you're creating it objectively. Ding. It's just to do with breath. It's just to do with your diaphragm. It's just to do with your the air in your body. Bam! It's just a cough. Like I said, all you're doing is accelerating as much as possible within a short amount of time.
Right.
So in other words, like punching like that and then boom, bouncing is like bam. That's Ging. I think some people might confuse it with Qi, which is what you just said. I mean, people are developing Qi. There's no such way. You can't develop Qi. It doesn't exist like that.
Okay.
It just doesn't work
All
like
right.
that.
Well, we'll come back to the Qi.
Yeah.
Now, let me use an example, right? So, okay, a boxer training, hitting the pads. Is he generating Ging?
Yeah, but he just doesn't know the name of the word.
Right. So basically, it's just an out breath then.
It's just it's just a cough.
Right.
That's the best way to describe it. It's a cough. It's a controlled cough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to describe it. And if you want to do it like that.
Okay.
You're fine. That's it.
For just to give you some sort of traditional credibility, could you sort of jazz it up a bit and say something more or not? I don't know.
I've never been like that.
I know you haven't. I know. What you
I always like to question.
But you
question everything.
You could throw out a bit of BS, couldn't you, old Ben? Come on, come on.
I don't know how to. It's just there. It is, and that's why people hate it sometimes because they'll do a full course on this Ging, and then I'll say it's a cough.
Yeah. That's why people hate it. That's why people don't like you.
That's right. It's like Ging, like Qi, talking about Qi.
Yeah.
You watch all these people on, in Shaolin and all this. Ready to get the thing snapped on them, the stick snapped on their chest as they're breathing. Yeah. You can't create. Qi exists, and that's it. If you
define it, then. Well, okay, all right. If you say Qi exists, if we can put it into a westernized concept, what are we talking about here?
Negative energy, positive energy. Positive energy is like, where you get something like you live under a pylon or something, electric pylon, and you get that energy. When you got air conditioning in your building and you don't feel so well, this energy, it's positive ions, if you like.
Right.
Then you've got negative ions, and it's just the opposite. It's like it just flows throughout your body, and it flows better. Like, for instance, running water under trees. That's why you see people doing Tai Chi in parks, because they're trying to cultivate, if you like, at least be in an environment that feels good.
Right.
And it's those kind of environments that feel good.
Yeah.
So trying to breathe it in and out, it just doesn't exist. What you can do, of course, is restrict it. So basically, by that, I mean your muscles are too tight.
Right.
So therefore, the whole idea of Tai Chi, for instance, is to relax the muscles. And as you relax them, the energy flows through your body.
Right.
If you're tense in certain parts of your body, your shoulders and so on, then what's going to happen is you're going to restrict that natural flow of energy. But it is a natural flow of energy. People talk about the aura, and they see color photos of this heat around you.
Yeah.
That's Qi. That's just, positive energy, if you like. Negative ions, positive ions. I forgive me that because we're talking straight off the bat.
Yeah.
It's quite possible I've switched them around. So all you got to do is pick up a bloody book and read it.
Well, one's
okay.
One's
negative ions.
Whatever.
Well, you got negative ions, positive ions, negative energy, positive energy, and they're related in the opposite way.
Is a mobile phone good or bad?
Bad.
What about a microwave?
Well, that's bad, isn't it?
Shit.
I wouldn't want to sit in one.
So if you're on your mobile and eating a microwave meal, you've probably got bad Qi.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can you eating fresh fish under a tree in a park is probably good for you. But what
about one of your breakfasts from that Canadian grill? That looked like a coronary on a plate.
That's definitely negative Qi.
Negative Qi. You are negative Qi.
I did have mushrooms, so therefore I ate my veg.
We haven't talked about fizzy pops.
I don't touch fizzy pop.
No, but from previous podcasts, we can safely say that anything with carbon in it, carbonated beverages, they're bad Qi. Can you can you develop Qi? Can you create Qi?
No.
Why not?
Because it just exists in the atmosphere. That's it. It just exists. It exists through you live on electricity. You are electrical.
Like
Your
biochemical.
Energy, your biochemical electricity, and therefore, and that's what it is.
Okay.
And now what you can do is restrict it by having tenseness, tense shoulders, having the world upon your shoulders, they say, don't they? So you got the weight of the world on your shoulders. And that's when you're tense and you're tight and you feel stiff. And that's where you're restricting that energy flow.
Right.
You're feeling. So that's the the belief the Chinese have, which is.
Well, isn't this belief because defining something like that all those years ago, you had to, there was no other choice but to talk about it in these sort of esoteric terms.
It's not that they didn't have any choice. It's just that they wanted to be, one guy wanted to be better than the other. It's as simple as that. If you're
right, every man's a master.
I mean, exactly. Let's just pretend you're back in the 18th century and you want to be a doctor. You go to a college, you're not going to learn everything about being a doctor. So what you're going to do is you're going to make up your own potions. No. It's as simple as that, because otherwise you'll be out of work.
Yeah.
So how simple is that? It's just human nature.
Well, it's still, this Qi thing is still going on, in
exactly because people are willing to take it in.
Yeah,
people still take it in, and that's why, because it's a different culture, and of course the people who benefit from it most are those people that come from that culture, who can then say, "Wait a minute, I know Qi because I am this particular, ethnicity."
Yeah,
and they go, "Oh yeah, you must know," and then of course. People do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting there's it's all bunkum. I'm not saying that at all. I mean, I really believe, acupuncture is really good, but it's energy, and for some way, they have learned to cultivate, certain meridians on the body and utilize them, and so that's great. But so does a doctor with a hammer on your knee. He knows knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it just takes thousands of years to cultivate it, to understand it, and then they have utilized it and made it useful. So I'm not suggesting at all that any of these cures and potential cures are bull. I'm not suggesting that. That's for the scientists to find out. But for me, I got no problem with learning Qigong and learning acupuncture and all that, and acupressure. Yeah. I got no problem with those things. But what I'm saying to you and the listeners is you cannot cultivate it. You cannot make it. It is there. And all you need to know is where it is, where and how you can better define it, and how you can prevent yourself from restricting it.
So what's the connection between Qi and Ging?
Well, there isn't really any.
Right.
They're just different things.
Right. Okay.
I wouldn't suggest there's anything to do with it. I mean, let's just go through a couple of these things that people hate us talking about. Let's just talk about when you watch someone break a piece of metal over his head. Let's just talk about maybe you see someone smash a piece of wood across his chest. Someone holds the big pole of wood, or maybe a plank or something, and they aim it towards them, ready. You've seen these things. And of course, beforehand, the guy's breathing.
Yeah.
And then he's up there and he's waiting to get hit. And the guy's like this, aiming the pole at him, right at the pole. But of course, he's using the tip of the pole to aim towards his ribs, and he's touching it with the tip of the pole, or the plank of wood. And then as he goes, whoop,
he
moves it forward, and the weight of the pole or the weight of the wood just snaps the wood. So in actual fact, he doesn't get hit by the full force of the end of the pole, because if he did, it'd break his bloody ribs and he would collapse. So, don't come with that. I mean, most of these, all of them can be explained, but, many, I mean, you see people with a spear on the neck.
Yeah. And it's bending
pretending
down.
It's Qi. Yeah, but what they're doing is they're going like that, then they could starts shaking, start bouncing, and they get the right time in. And as the stick goes down and bends, that's where they catch it. Well, of course, it can't straighten now. So now they've got a bend in it. All they need is a little bit of strength to push it forward and bend it.
I'd believe it if it was a solid pole, like a bloody oak thing. Right, okay, I'm done. But not a bamboo.
Well, it just comes from the same kind of thing. It's the same as a bed of nails, right?
Yes.
It's exactly the same. Distribute the weight across a load of nails, got no problem. Let's see you lie on one nail.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Absolutely. So that, the Ging thing. I think, you do it. I mean, if I'm hitting pads or hitting my bag, you do it and you don't realize it. So I don't pay it enough attention.
No,
I just do it as per.
If you shorten the strike to the shortest possible time, like a cough.
Yeah.
So instead of going,
this is
you are bang.
Yeah.
There you have your 1 inch punch.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
As an example.
Yeah. Punch, not a push.
A punch, not a push. But of course, you're continuing through.
Yeah.
But once you've made that first effort, you've got to continue through because that will develop. It will have the visual effect.
Right. Okay.
Now, I know I do appreciate a lot of people hate us talking about this, but this podcast is about honesty. It's not about bullshit. I don't support bullshit. I don't support anyone who, I don't care what people say and do.
I think if you go through our back catalogue, you probably will figure that out. But whatever. No, brilliant. Yeah, no. It's our opinions at the end of the day, guys.
Of course, it's only my opinion, folks.
But
that's all
right. So the second part of the question, I think we've done the Ging thing now. Great, brilliant.
If they want to learn to fly, just give us a call.
Oh yeah, I'll charge you. I don't care.
It might take you about 30 years.
So you're not trying hard enough. No,
I've made enough money and died in the process. As long as you can keep sending the money, I'll keep telling you that you can fly.
You did it. Yeah.
There you go.
The Phoenix Eye Fist. Okay. In Laugar. Talk to me, old man. What is it about? Because it sounds,
it's just a thrust as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Oh,
so it's a small amount of energy, or rather a large amount of energy, into a small area.
All right. Well, just explain exactly what it is. Just explain what the Phoenix Eye Fist is. The forming of the fist.
For me, it's a thrusting technique.
Okay. So
now it can thrust this way.
Yeah. Okay.
And it can also thrust this way.
Hello. Just before you go on to what it's doing, explain the forming of the technique. So just talk about that. How are you making it? What denotes it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Remember, you're on a podcast as well.
Oh, okay. So
there's a bit of commentary.
I'm closing all my fingers and I'm leaving the one large, more protrusion than the other. Then I'm trapping it with the thumb behind, so it cannot be crushed. Okay.
So
it cannot be pressed down in the same sense as the others.
No, but it is still. That's a pretty. As we would do the Phoenix Eye Fit as it is. It's not. It's not like it's gonna sort of collapse on itself after a point.
After a point,
but like we always say, make the dead arm at school thing.
It totally depends. Yes, it totally depends on the technique, the training for the technique, I should say, and the target for the technique.
Yes,
and the development of the energy for the technique to the target. So again, if you're trying to aim at a specific target that's not impacting on you, in other words, if someone's coming directly at you with the full body and you do this, it's quite possible that it is going to hurt you just as much because it's just going to crush. However, if you're hitting like sideways and you're catching people on the temple, or you're hitting them, in the tooth, or you're hitting them, where it's going to hurt, at the top of the foot or the top of the hand or so on, then you're not actually, you've got no effective, shall we say, opposing energy.
Right.
So the technique is useful where there isn't any opposing energy or very little of it. So basically what you're doing is applying all your energy in a much smaller area to apply to a technique or to an area that's not opposing. In other words, it's not oncoming.
Yes.
Yeah, you could do that to a punch. With a punch, you can punch. Someone's coming at you, you can punch them. Yeah, you've got enough energy or enough area there to sort of impact them. Yeah, but even so, you may well be knocked backwards if you're smaller than they are.
Right. So, but as with you've just said, you would then discern target areas. The soft part, the throat, the neck, etc. So
you're looking for places. You're looking for specific areas that are going to hurt.
Yeah.
They're going to be painful because they're being prodded, as opposed to being punched.
Yeah.
Because this is, I would suggest that this is more of a prod, a very powerful prodding with a whip in action, depending on, and a twist in action, totally depending on what you're doing. Remember when people do chop choy in Lao,
that's our third set that emphasizes this fist.
That's right. So they're doing 1, 2, 3. But what you've got to recognize is it's hit the target by the time it gets to here.
Yeah.
And then it's thrusting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's no point. You're not literally hitting the target like so. You're hitting the target like so. And then it is creating.
But if we're going to play the devil's advocate here, why not? Yeah. Why not? Why can't I hit the target once it's reached that point?
Because that's the same as a dead punch.
Okay.
Yeah, when you punch someone, you're going to be punching them while the arm is bent.
Right.
So likewise, if you have a knuckle, you'll be doing the same thing. Otherwise, it'll just be wasted.
Yeah. Isn't again, when we look at the Phoenix Eye Fist, sort of the effectiveness in terms of, and I've never bloody hit anyone with it, so I talk about effectiveness, but all I can do is the hypothesis of it.
Even Martin knocked.
Well, I'm not as skillful as Martin. Didn't he knock someone out?
He knocked Ranjit out because Ranjit. Yes, Ranjit says, "Oh, I don't like this," or whatever. I don't think of this, and Martin says, "Well, it works and everything." He says, "No, I don't like it. It doesn't." And he went like this, bang like that, and hit him on the head. He hit him right in the temple, and Ranjit just went boom on the floor.
I'm not. It's not that I would.
I mean, just to point out that this is a pretty nasty area to hit. Oz was doing competition fighting. He went underneath. Yeah. The other guy punched, and as he pulled his hand back, his elbow caught Oz straight in the temple. And as he was punching, he just carried onto the floor, and he stayed there. And he would not wake up. We had to call an ambulance. Yeah, he was out of it, and he had this huge lump on the side of his head. Character. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that there's no effectiveness in it. Not at all. I'm just saying I don't train it hard enough, No, we don't. No one trains it hard enough.
No, I'm not saying that. But
because
it's like
they don't need to.
But you to get an idea of sort of imagine if it hurts, just punch the back of your hand and then make the single knuckle and see if you can punch it that harder. And and you get the idea. You get this sort of principle. Now, talking about what was I going to say? Oh, bloody hell! It's gone now. It's bloody gone. The punch itself. Yeah. Wouldn't we suggest that it's kind of more effective or more easily applicable in the sense of if it's a vertical fist, as like a knock, bam, bam, as opposed to a flat fist?
It depends on the target. Again, sometimes people do this in Lago Lukapjan, and the first thing they hit is the little finger.
Well, then you'd have to train
they're
it,
not
right?
twisting. Yeah, they're not twisting far enough.
You have to train it.
So it's rotating in that sense now. Okay, and some people, of course, knock on it. It's the same thing, and that's okay as long as you are around far enough that you will not. Because if you're doing it directly straight, then this is the bit that's going to hit the target.
Agreed.
And not this.
Agreed.
And that's why you need to hit it that direction.
Agreed.
As opposed,
but let me just suggest as well, or maybe you can comment on, if I'm going to punch flat, that implies, I'm basically doing what we would call a flat punch, right? So, just flat punch. There's an awful lot of body weight and sort of, energy in a flat punch on its own. Now, if you protrude that, that index finger, you've made a massive gross movement. There's a lot of body weight behind that punch. And if you impact someone with that flat, I would be a bit sort of, am I going to do myself more damage? But if I'm using it as a sort of like I'm knocking on a door, or British politician hand, hello, wait, stop, no, I would suggest that it's sort of slightly more,
well, it's certainly more useful because it'll have a different type of target.
Yeah, I'm not saying the targets are the same. I'm just saying about self-preservation.
Exactly. I mean, if you're hitting someone like at the side of the teeth or someone as an example, that's fairly painful. That knocking is useful.
I wouldn't like to get knocked in the teeth.
Yeah, but if you do that, it's quite possible because you're hitting, teeth and bone. It's quite possible that that's just going to get hurt a lot more.
Yeah.
So that's why it's got to be a boom kind of thing as opposed to full strength. Well, see, the thing about martial art is people think that every technique requires a huge amount of strength. It doesn't. What it requires is a decent target that doesn't require the pain or the energy. Okay, it's going to get hurt a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like saying, I always say to people when they first join the class, we're talking about fingers and developing fingers. And I always say to people, okay, where would you hit someone with your little finger?
Yeah.
And they go, I'd hit them in the eye, or I'd hit them like here or there or whatever. And I say then, okay, I say, if you can do press-ups on your little finger, where would you hit them? So this is a single finger, little finger.
Like the Shaolin.
Yeah. If you like.
Yeah.
Where would you hit them? Well, the answer is anywhere you bloody well want to. Because if you can do a press up on that finger, it doesn't make any difference where you hit, because you're going to have the strength in that finger.
Yeah.
So it's all down to the amount of training you do.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do press ups on this knuckle, then pretty much you're going to be able to hit people where you want to.
Yeah.
So, our suggestion, we're just going by logic, that if you're hitting directly forward and straight at somebody, there's going to be impact against you as well as you hitting them.
Yes.
And so therefore, it's like punching a brick wall. It's great punching, a brick wall that's going to move. But if that brick wall is solid, that's going to hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's whatever gives it's easier to hit a target that gives, and therefore it's easier to hit a smaller target.
Providing you're accurate.
Yeah. Well, that's the most important thing. Accuracy is more important than speed and power. Speed and power are useless without accuracy. You can be as powerful as you like. I got a 357 Magnum. Is that a gun?
Yeah.
And I'm going to point it at your head, and I pull the trigger, and the bullet misses. Doesn't matter how fast it is. Doesn't matter how powerful the gun is. It's going to miss. So it's a complete waste of time. You might get deaf, but you ain't going to die from it.
You might need a change of underwear, but you're not going to die. You're all right.
Yeah. But accuracy, that changes everything.
Yeah.
So, that's the argument, really.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting. The conversation has gone around to this, because this really, in terms of what I want to talk about next, which is what's the point of point fighting, isn't it? When we talk about accuracy, when we talk about speed, not power, but speed, aren't these very much attributes that lend themselves to points fighting?
Yeah. Well, that's why that's why it's so successful in competition.
No, absolutely.
The whole design of movement in Kung Fu is to be fast.
Yes.
And so it does lend itself to that kind of strategy.
Yes. Sorry, hold that thought. You're right. Yeah, absolutely. And it was a good segue, but unfortunately we need to wrap up the Phoenix Eye Fist thing, right?
Oh, all right then.
So I segued before I should have segued, but it was such a good point to segue. In closing, right, how can we train? If you want to train the Phoenix Eye Fist, any suggestions, old man?
Just sit up, press-ups, push-ups. That's it. Push-ups on it. People will start on the beach. On the sand.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and they'll end up on the pebble beach.
And why do you think it's called a Phoenix Eye? Is it because it looks like an eye?
Yeah. Maybe it looks like a phoenix.
Oh, I don't know. Why is a for bird, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a bird in fire.
Yes, yes, yeah. Interesting. Great. So
Well, it's no more than that. Looks like a dragon.
sad dragon, is it? I don't know.
Dragonfish, isn't it?
I don't know. Listen, we got some
I
cultured
prefer this
listeners
one.
who would
I
know.
prefer this one.
Definitely
I'm
prefer
okay
that
with that
one.
one. I'm okay with that one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You can hit someone hard with that one, and that's really
Well,
nice.
that is pinch punch first of the month. You know,
That's it. But I can't. I haven't got the strength in this one.
no.
Okay, I can understand. But it's like anything, isn't it? It's relative to your training.
Yeah.
If you haven't trained this, like it's all. I mean, the legend goes that some guy. I don't know what happened. Someone insulted him or something like that. It's an old story Yao used to talk about, and he trained just this. That's all he trained. He just trained that.
Right.
And then he went to get his revenge with the guy, and obviously traditionally they have these long sleeves, don't they? Yeah.
Mm.
And the guy was drinking his tea, and as it went like that, and because they like to hide, that's rude to do this.
Right.
Yeah. So they have these big long sleeves, and as he drunk it like that, he was sat across the table from him. So he drunk it like that, it went boom and hit him in the throat, and he was dead. And
he died.
Yeah. He wasn't a happy chappy. Let's put it that way.
I mean, all right.
Well, we don't know.
What did he do to this guy? I want to know.
I don't know what he did to him. He insulted him, or he killed someone he knew, or possibly injured his family or killed his family. I don't know. It's just a story that Yao tells about this, particularly explaining about this kind of technique that can be used.
Yeah. Right.
And like I say, if someone's going to train it, then they're going to use it. I most definitely cannot use this in the same way that someone who trained and trained and trained.
Yeah.
Just this.
Yeah.
And there is, and I think that sort of says it all about Kung Fu. And when we have these people say, oh yeah, Kung Fu doesn't work or whatever, it's because there are so many elements and different types of techniques. And unfortunately, in order to keep it alive, you have to teach all the techniques, but you can't be good at all of them. But some people will like that. Some people will like that. Some people will just like that. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it basically down to how you can spread the Kung Fu, but it becomes so, and it has become so diversified because there are those preferences.
Yeah. You're talking about diversification of teaching or
both diversification. It's how people use techniques. I mean, like for instance, I'm saying I can't particularly use that. So would I use this as my mainstay of my class? No, I wouldn't. Okay. Would I take people down the beach and make them do press-ups or sit-ups on the beach like this and then punch wood for hours on end? No, I wouldn't.
No.
Okay. So, but if I just believed in that and I thought that's all you needed to do, then fine. But if you could do that, I have no doubt in my mind that if you get the chance, you can utilize it very well. But not everybody can, and a lot of these traditional techniques are dying off because of that. People still practice them, but they don't train them, and because they don't train them, they can't use them, and because they can't use them, those people who prefer just a big punch and a kick say, "That's all I want: a big punch and a kick."
Are you saying that
that against me?
Are you saying that it just turns into kickboxing? Come on, never. Not traditional martial arts, right?
Invariably,
yeah. So it's trying to strike that sort of balance, isn't it? Between
and it's trying to maintain the science of that. You may not be able to use that.
Well, you can write a thesis on it, but you might not train it.
Exactly.
But how many bloody English teachers write a novel? So piss off. It's completely logical. It really is.
Yeah, you've got to maintain the science. The whole purpose of learning Kung Fu is to maintain that science. Yeah. That's it. I mean, Jesus, otherwise there'd be no reenactments.
Right. Right. Science. Interesting. So, segue into points fighting. Points fighting. I'm maybe going to suggest this, right? I'm maybe going to suggest that one of the most sort of blatantly obvious ways you could demonstrate a lot of the principles where we talk about strategy and tactics of Kung Fu would perhaps be in points fighting, right?
Absolutely,
now, yeah. But I'm not talking about that bloody taekwondo at the Olympics crap. You know, all the bloody...
Is that your opinion, James?
Listen, well, sorry if it's my opinion. I mean, sorry if they're 2 feet away from each other and he can't be asked to back fist him. He's got to kick him in the head. You know, excuse me. You know, that's Olympic taekwondo. There are some good taekwondo guys, you know, blaming. And I'm not also talking about the karate kumite, right? That stuff is crazy. Even though it's points fighting, like they getting them to do blitzes and stuff like that. It's all reverse punches. It's like you watch it and it's like, has that guy just, you know, done a line of coke and decided to spar? Because they look crazy. They go crazy. And they've got to make it look like, you know, after they've scored a point, they've got to like assume a fighting, you know, stance or something. It's nuts. I'm not talking about that. What I am in fact talking about is what we would call semi-contact or, you know, wacko rules, European in wacko kickboxing, or what you might call in America, they call it sport karate. You know, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the good stuff, and there really is such a diversification of point style fighting. But I'm talking about the good stuff, right? I'm talking about your blitzing. You know, I'm talking. You know, that's the good stuff, right?
You're doubling up.
Yeah. You know, that constant forward motion, the slipping, and it's beautiful to watch. Now, I also, and you know, but I'm not talking about your cartwheels, you know, and all that. And the Superman punches, although you look at UFC and Muay Thai today, they're all trying to do the Superman punch. And it's just like, hang on, that was like 30 years ago, guys, you know, but they're all trying to do it. They're catching up. Now,
they like to say how bad semi-contact is and, oh, you know, you can't take it and whatever. And half of them are bloody semi-contact fighters changed.
Wow. It's interesting because the reason I wanted to talk about this is I was watching, I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, right? Very famous podcast. I'm sure you know who he is. And he had a guest on there called Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. They were having a chat. And the reason I want to talk about this is because Joe Rogan kind of said, you know, you see your style of fighting, really, really good lead leg. And that's what's throwing a lot of people off these days is your lead leg. And, you know, when you talk about lead leg in terms of points fighting, it's, you know, it's a common thing, right?
Yes, the most common thing.
Yeah, because, you know, it's like fencing, isn't it? You lead leg, closest, fastest. You know, and he's saying it's throwing a lot of fighters off. Now, the implication is, from old Rogan, you know, and I love him, but the implication is, this is a new thing. This is new, right? Really? Yeah, no, and it's true. Now, and another thing, but then in the second breath, you know, after Wonderboy Thompson, you know, sort of explains his background in sport karate, as he calls it, and as it's called, you know, he kind of goes, but the problem with points fighting is it's kind of a bit unrealistic. You know, it doesn't really work in a real scenario. It's like, well, yeah, it doesn't work in a real scenario because, you know, but the principles are in there. Yeah. The principles are in there, you know, in terms of
the techniques are in there.
Yeah, they're in there. But, you know, the thing is, this is not new news, but it's just getting round to the UFC lot, right? Which is interesting because when you look at the history, and this is way before UFC, you look at the history of, you know, kickboxing in America, right? And certainly kickboxing in this country. But if we go back to America, back in the early days, all these guys came from a sort of karate points fighting background. Now, albeit the points fighting style back then was a bit more, less refined, shall we say. But when you had the likes of, you know, Bill Wallace and, you know, Ukides and Joe Louis and Chuck Norris, he was a points fighter as well. All these guys kind of influenced the full contact world. And when someone like Bill Wallace stepped into the ring in full contact, he wasn't prepared to play the trading game. He wanted to use distance timing, which, as we can sort of confidently say, it's one of the prerequisites that you're training in points fighting, right? Because you're not training to trade. You're not there trading power. It's not about that. It's basically like, it's fencing versus sword fighting.
You mean something like flies like a butterfly,
Sting like a bee. Yeah. Now, but there are certainly cases out there where people, good fighters, boxers, kickboxers, have certainly honed this distance and timing thing, and they've not trained points. But I think the point I want to make with it is that you can seriously accelerate your training and appreciation of these attributes that will lend themselves to make you a decent sport fighter.
Watch
in turn,
Prince Nazim.
Yeah, well, Naz
He trained Lau in Sheffield.
Did he really though? Like, did
Yes.
he really? Because
when he was a kid, that's what he did. If you watch him, he's the only boxer that does a back fist.
Yeah, granted, he looks free and like a dancer.
Yeah.
Obviously,
And
I
he's,
love
and
Naz.
he's just keeping his distance and back fist, back fist, and then the rest is combination.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's got that great sense. Who trained him in Lao then? And because I've got all these books on him. There's no bloody documentation of that.
Yeah, no, well.
Hang on.
Would he ever say it? He would just go to his boxing roots, wouldn't he? And say, So, but yeah, I know someone who trained with him, or I don't know whether they in his class or whether they taught or helped him. Graham Abdullah.
Right. So
Abdullah.
Yeah, he still teaches Lao.
Well, he's out of Lao now, I believe.
Is he? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a guardian, and he wasn't happy with certain things. So as people are.
Oh, you know how that goes, old man.
Yeah.
But so but these are what we're talking about, like the principles of why points fighting kind of lends itself to a kung fu ethic, if you like. And it's not just kung fu, any decent martial art, but we're using kung fu as the example. Why do you think that is? I mean, you just mentioned sort of good distance, etc. So,
well, it's semi-contact training. It's avoiding you can't get scored against. If you get scored against, you lose. You don't have to be knocked out. You only have to be touched.
Right.
So it's a game of tag, basically. That's why it was also called tag fighting, by the way.
All right. Okay. Tag fighting. There you go.
Yeah. So it was obviously a situation where if you get a score against you, and as long as it looks like a decent technique and it reaches you, then you get a point against you.
Yeah.
So the whole point of that kind of fighting is like, okay, so what's the best thing between defense and attack? And obviously the most important thing is defense. How many times does a guy have to hit you to win a point or to win the contest? Once. How many times do you have to stop him?
Yeah.
Thousands.
Yeah.
And so your defense has to be good. And you can't stand there and just block.
No.
You got to move.
You got to use distance.
You cannot be a target. You cannot allow him to be a target. But it's the same in full contact. The same in boxing. You cannot be a target, except that they're willing to take the punishment, and so they cover up.
This is my point. Now, you look at the ethos of a full contact fighter or a boxer, and I use a generic boxer, right? Yeah. Not someone, but they're sort of, it's like the old Rocky Balboa, isn't it? It's not how hard you can be it. It's not how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can be it. And my sort of attitude is, I don't want to be hit. I'd rather move.
But that's only a modern concept if you think about it. When they started wearing big gloves, now the tactics change, because if you can stay in close and see an opening and throw your technique as they are throwing theirs, you're going to catch them out. So as long as you can take that technique, if you can take that punch, as long as he's not smacking you in the jaw, and as long as he's not catching you under the ribs, these primary situations, primary techniques or primary targets, then of course you're fine. But back in the day when they just wore a pair of, mittens, or maybe wore bare knuckles and just taped them up so they didn't break their knuckles, you don't want to be hit.
No.
You're going to keep your distance.
Yeah, right.
And there you see a similar kind of, prospect.
Yeah.
Because if you get hit once, you get injured. And if you get injured, you're going to fight less well. And if you fight less well, you're more likely to lose. So it's all old, that's old-fashioned stuff. You bring modern concept into it, modern boxing, of course, then you're starting to talk about people who can get much closer, who can take the techniques because they got much bigger gloves, right? I mean, I'm not suggesting it's, any easier. It's just simply fact that they are going to, be able to take at least one or two punches and keep themselves covered enough to be able to throw out the punch. Yeah. So it's much close quarter fighting, whereas semi-contact is not close quarter fighting.
No, it's definitely ranged. Exactly. That's why I use the analogy. It's like fencing versus sword fighting. You look at fencing, you're at a distance.
Yeah.
You have to be.
Yeah.
But sword fighting implies you're getting a bit closer, just a bit.
Yeah.
And it's like...
But if the other guy's got a longer sword than you, or he holds his sword further out than you, which is the norm, and you pull yours back to hit him, then your technique is not very good, because as you pull it back and he puts it forward, his sword is now longer than yours.
Yeah.
That implies the same thing with technique, with fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that hence the front side kick.
The lead side kick.
The lead side kick.
That is throwing everybody into disarray.
Yeah. And leaning back, so you take your target away to do a front kick.
Yeah.
Or leaning back to do the side kick.
Yes.
Because now you take your target away and you're providing a good technique at them. They've got nothing to hit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in terms of, like, look, I will argue to the hilt, right, that if you take someone and give them a good foundation in points fighting, they will really come to appreciate distance and timing a hell of a lot quicker, but it could be argued, but a hell of a lot quicker than it would if you just went in full contact blazing, right? Now, there is an argument for a full contact thing, because if you're getting hit with some good shots, you don't want to get hit with those good shots. So you're probably going to, increase that distance, and probably going to, make certain adjustments. But for the average Joe, I'm not conditioned as a sports fighter. Like because I'm just not. Like I've not, trained it. I've not done enough. Excuse me.
No, it's
I've trained it.
Training.
I've trained it, but I don't train that much, right? So I'm not conditioned. I'll do it. I'll have fun, but it's not something. I'm not a keen amateur, full contact fight. I'm not a keen, whatever. But so points fighting is sort of where I'm existing at the moment, with like continuous as well. But isn't it, would you sort of, what attributes do you think you would get? You would learn from training points fighting first, as opposed to directly straight in with full contact.
Footworks, right? That goes without saying. Footwork.
And let's be clear, though. Let's be clear. You're not saying exclusively you will learn better footwork. You're just saying what? Because they both have footwork.
Yes, they both have footwork, but you have ability to throw long kicks from that footwork, right? So you can move. So it's your footwork is timed with the other person's, whereas most people tend not to do that. They tend simply just to look at the attacking, the options, the openings and so on and so forth. So they're going to be, closer. They're waiting for the person to throw so that they can counter, et cetera, but they're not saying out. So the idea is to wear the other person down as much as possible, and to catch him when he's sleeping, to catch him when he least expects it. And that sometimes can range from a longer distance. So in other words, like with a semi-contact fighter, you can be at a massive distance and close the gap extremely fast. And so that the other person, exactly, back fist, reverse punch, so your cross step, your body sideways, which is your longest reach for your back fist.
Yeah.
And then underneath with a reverse punch, and so on. Or you can do a long punch and then a back fist and then underneath, all these old-fashioned things.
Oh, the old ridge hand as well.
And the ridge hands. But the point is, the footwork is designed to take you from the outside, where it doesn't look possible to reach the target, to actually reaching the target. because you don't put your foot down.
No.
So in other words, it's your body weight. You're reaching over, you're leaning forward, and that's what gives them the edge.
And that is what you see. Now, there are a lot of, I say a lot, but this is the issue with this Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, right? And not just him, because there's a few other fighters in the UFC, Michael Venom Page, British guy, trained with Sean Vieira and all. I don't know. I don't think he trained with Sean, but they were in the same circles. You got Americans like Raymond Daniels. These all come from the point fighting background, okay? All of them. And you can see this ability to exist outside this fighting threshold, right? So they've elongated a distance that other people would, and you can always tell, right? You look at Muay Thai fighters, as great as they are, they're fit, they can take a bit of stick as well, punishment, but they exist closer. Yeah, they do. They have to. Look at the kicks they're throwing. Look at the techniques they're trying to hit each other with. But you look at these guys like Wonderboy, and they exist slightly outside that threshold. And
that's what gives them an advantage is at that distance. And
so they've got more time to react, but they can close this gap. They can blitz. They can get in there quick, and sometimes off time the other person, so they don't even see it.
Exactly. Well, that's what semi-contact in the Lao was all about.
It was, they did it wonderfully, didn't they?
Exactly. They beat everybody, and the whole point is no one realized how far they could reach them from. The distances they could reach them from.
And UFC people are having that issue at the moment. They don't realize. It's a lead leg. You're befuddling people.
Yeah, and you're out at that distance. Then they're trying to close up that gap. Fully covered, trying to close up that gap, and you can throw long techniques from a distance and get out.
Yeah,
it's gonna give you an advantage in certain circumstances,
providing you get out, right? Because there are some, point fighting does stop at the point that you've hit them. And then but it shouldn't. In your mind, mentally, you should just keep it going. But some people just stop.
It's like back fist, reverse punch, sweep. People don't sweep. Now you can sweep. Well, I'm not sure if sweeping allowed in UFC.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So there you go. You're in there. You sweep.
Well,
once you close the gap, you haven't got to get out, have you? Because if the guy's been going on the floor, then it's very difficult for him to counter once he's down. And then if you're able to get on top of him then and you're good at grappling and that sort of thing, then that's going to help too. Yeah. So being a long distance fighter, being able to close the gap at a large range and being good sweeper, taking the foot from him and then being a good grappler should give you a really good advantage.
Yeah, that would be a great sort of combination there. There's some real good Muay Thai fighters as well who have, and I say real good in the confines of what they're doing, but they're sort of they're doing a lot of sweeps and stuff like that, and I like that. There's a guy called Liam Harrison, real talented British Muay Thai fighter, but. But they exist on such a close plane, which is too close for me. But I understand why. Because if I'm doing boxing or if I'm doing full contact fighting, then my distance closes up. It naturally does,
Yeah,
but
if you want to throw as much power as possible.
But after the event, so if you like, so I might stick at a distance, use this sort of this semi-contact mentality, the strategy tactics. Close that gap once I'm in there. I have to make a few adjustments, but then it's back to sort of, continuous.
Yeah.
But the problem, but what I think with point fighting is you have an enormous respect for distance and timing.
Yeah. And that's what gives you the edge in that sense. And I think people who have done semi-contact first will gain that advantage.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean to say they're the greatest fighters. Of course, it doesn't.
No, it's just a skill set, isn't it?
They've got to be able to take it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's just the amount they've done and the amount of, and then of course it totally depends on their opponent as well and what their opponent can do.
Yeah.
So but it's most definitely advantageous technique or advantageous strategy to stay distance.
But going back to
like a sniper.
Well, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But going back to sort of why I kind of want to suggest that that it's very similar to the ethos of Kung Fu science, this points fighting. Is just simply because of that. You're effectively trying to use minimum effort to deliver an accurate on-shot target from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, look, you can translate that to a, finger jab to the eyes or whatever. We love that one, don't we? But, it's the same principle of going from point A to point B. But how do you go about it? If you do it fast, if you can appreciate distance, timing, stealth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about fooling the person. But part of that fooling is the simple fact that you're so far away, he feels comfortable.
Yeah.
And what you've got to do is constantly put him on edge and yet not be within that range.
Yeah.
And once he knows you can reach him from that distance, he's going to be on edge.
Yeah.
But he still can't reach you.
Yeah.
So he's going to try and close that gap. Well, if he tries to close that gap, that gives you an advantage.
Yeah.
And so that's that. It's a strategy, and that's it. And by the way, I'm waiting for someone to call their, semi-contact fighter is in full contact. I'm waiting for him to call them the sniper. Because I want to cut.
I want some royals, man. I want some royals.
Yeah.
But yeah,
call him the sniper.
But you see a lot of people, and you watch sort of Wonder Boy doing his sparring. He's hit. He has some good fights, etc. But as previously mentioned, he's at distance, he's at range. Now, invariably, the other UFC guy, what kind of stand-up fighting do you think the other guy has trained? Just pluck one out of the air. What do you reckon?
What do you mean in UFC?
Yeah, in UFC. So, the other guy, what do you reckon he's trained, stand-up fighting-wise?
Well, I doubt very much if he's done anything other than like boxing or, maybe some martial arts or whatever.
So it's going to be, boxing, Muay Thai. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and what you see is when they fight each other, you see the Muay Thai guy is trying to fight at a closer range than.
Well, that's because he likes low kicks.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And you don't want to get caught with one of them low kicks, particularly if you're side on. But it's the range difference in the different fighters and how, like you said, how they close that gap. And it's
the other problem that I see, I mean, I'm only a layman, but I can just say, with Thai boxers, they throw those low kicks, and if the guy is capable of moving, if he is a semi-contact fighter and uses that strategy, and he can move, because he can move, what does he do? He's out of the way when that low kick comes. That low kick is going to go all the way around because he's thrown as much power as possible. The guy's going to pretty much have his back on him all the time.
Yeah, it's a possibility. It's definitely it's happened.
So as he swings around, he's just going to close that. And if the sweep's available there, then that's an ideal opportunity to sweep.
Perfect, wouldn't it?
The other leg while it's still on the ground.
Yeah.
So, it takes a lot of energy to keep getting up.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I just find it like the difference in the strategy and tactics. I think that's what we've always sort of harped on about, isn't it? Whatever we're talking about, whether it's kung fu, whatever, strategy and tactics count.
Yeah, I think people have got to understand that kung fu has that. It's proven that. Certainly in Laogai, the BKFA, it's proven it time and time again. For 30 years, it was the top fighting style in the semi-contact circuit of the world. And so there's a lot of people that will, I guess, mature into full contact and be more interested in UFC. It's like saying, well, they started as traditionalists and then they matured into semi-contact fighters. Well, where are they going to go from there? Some of them want blood. Some of them are going to go into full contact where there's money. They're going to go into light continuous in different competitions where there's money. That's why you don't see that bigger BKFA competitions anymore.
Or UFC or mixed martial arts, Steve. That's where the money is these days.
Exactly. That's where they're going. And they're going to the bigger semi-contact and light continuous competitions to play that as well.
Well, Alfie Lewis's kid, Marcus Lewis, who's a great fighter, just like his dad, and Alfie Lewis, another great example of points fighting, translated. But Alfie Lewis's kid, Marcus Lewis, he's going in to trying to get into UFC and mixed martial arts because there's no, he's won all the championships in points fighting. Now he's like, there's no money in it. There's not the recognition this sport deserves. So I'm going to go try and do that. And that's what he's doing. And he is another example. Not, his first fights were like he had a crap grappling game, but he was hitting them all around the ring with some ridiculous shots because he had that distance, that timing,
Mm-hmm.
But they go where the money is, and that's where the money is,
Yeah, and so some of us are left to sustain the science.
But isn't it funny how it's it's unknowingly making a resurgence? That's what I find very funny, because when I've got some guy, like Joe Rogan, UFC commentator, he's befuddling everyone with this. It's points fighting, man. It's been around for God knows how long. Let's just make that sort of correlation. What's happening with you? No, I can't hear you.
Oh, wait a minute then.
You dropped your mic. It's fallen off your belly.
Drop the mic. Nothing can fall off my belly. I can put a bloody, I can stick like half a car on there and nothing's going to drop off my stomach.
Yeah.
I'm preparing because we're going over to have a look at the other side of the country.
Yeah.
Preparing for my holiday. I've got to be fit for it.
Oh, yeah. That's why you ate a big breakfast.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That big breakfast, by the way, is my full. That's all I'll eat today.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'll eat nothing else. Okay, maybe a bit of cheese and wine.
Well, there you go. Yeah, and a bit of Baileys, etc. Can we just round it off on finishing off with this points fighting thing, because you've had some success teaching points. Some students, world
championships.
Yeah. And for all those people who would turn around and say points fighting is not realistic, it's got no place in martial art. You look at Muay Thai, they're using elbows, they're chin kicking, it's power, it's this, it's that. UFC, it's grappling, it's that, it's all this and that. Why would anybody, want to train points? Just, what would be your advice and a few words of wisdom to them? What would you say to them?
Because they can go to work the next day.
All right. Yes, that's true. We all want to feel good in the morning, but okay. And to be fair to points fighting, you can train it. Oh, have I frozen?
And you can keep have
I frozen? Yeah.
You have.
All right. Bloody hell! I tapped the screen. I'm back again. Hang on.
Yeah.
Wait there. Come on. Yeah, there we go. Back again. I tapped the screen. I'm like that. That guy in Jurassic Park, every time he touches it, woo, the computer blows up. Yes, we all want to go to work the next morning, but can you give something a bit more substantial than that? Come on.
It means
fight your
you
case.
Can keep on training. You can keep on training it. You can keep on training it. You're not going to get the injuries sustained as much as. You're going to be able to recover faster. You're going to be able to, compete, in an awful lot of range, not just in weight categories, but it's in, grade categories and so on. So, you don't, in semi-contact, you don't have to be the same size.
No.
So you can compete with anybody. So that's one of the most important things, that you don't need to wait for a match. You can actually go to a competition, just get in and fight absolutely load of people.
Right.
And so you get massive amounts of social experience, fighting small people, large people, slow people, fast people. So you're going to get an awful lot of experience that way. Okay. You haven't just got to, fight the fight, get, bruised the next day. You have to recover for a week or two, and then you got to plan for your next fight. You're not going to get the same kind of experience. Most definitely you're going to get some, a different kind of experience in full contact. Of course, you've got to be tougher. You've got to be harder.
You've got to be more robust, haven't you?
Robust within, but you have a lifespan.
Yeah.
You'll have a lifespan in that, just the same as anybody else.
Yeah.
And you can be as hard as you like, within the rules of a game. Game.
It is a game. So
exactly.
You've just mentioned full contact. I'd like you to make the same argument for training full contact as you would for defending, and promoting semi-contact. Make
Well,
the
again,
argument for it. What is the argument? Go for it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you are prepared. I think it's all about attitude with full contact. I think it's about the willingness of, you've got that, warrior mentality. And I think you are going to be able to fight anybody, or you're willing to fight anybody. Although not all full contact fighters are willing to fight everybody, by the way. Some of them, draw the line after a certain, when they've seen someone with a reputation, they go, you know what, I'll give that a miss and I'll go somewhere else.
The Joshua, just saying.
Yeah.
So no, I don't know. AJ, good on you. All right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So,
but it is not. We're not saying, and this is what I want people to understand, right? I'm not saying semi-contact is better. Is better than them. It's a different
animal.
It's a totally different animal, but it's the animal you want in your back pocket, people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
bloody believe me. Believe it.
Advantage. It is an advantage to come up from that direction.
Yeah.
And I think there's an awful lot of people out there who did come up from that direction, and they're having a lot of success.
Wow.
And I think you said yourself in your intro that, UFC people are just, gobsmacked by this different kind of strategy that they've never seen, because they've always boo-hooed it. They've always said it's crap. Well, now they're getting it. And, now they're just going to, it's like, punches and kickers, that's crap. It's got to be grappling. It's got to be grappling. Then the next year, what is it? Brilliant, punching and kicking.
Punching and kicking is back in.
Yeah.
It's in vogue.
So, they just, they make their own minds up.
Yeah.
But remember, it's all a game. It's all in a ring. And it's all, I'm not saying it's safe. It's a bloody dangerous game to be in. But it's not the war zone. It's not, people out to kill you. So that's down to the person, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And in saying that they have the warrior attitude in full contact, I'm not suggesting for a minute they don't have that in semi-contact, because they'll do everything they can to win. Okay. And some of them, they don't do semi-contact. Some of them, they're not. They do semi-contact, but they don't play semi-contact.
Yeah.
They'll do something. They'll do.
Oh yeah. Well, that was Alfie Lewis's thing. He wasn't prepared to do. He wasn't prepared to lose. Great.
Well, there's a load of names that come out.
Absolutely. But I'm using him as he's going to whack you hard. So if he's going to back fist you, he's going to be to hurt you. So, because the effectiveness is, in his mind, it's martial art. And I get it.
And it's not going to hold a spinning kick back.
No,
you
don't.
Or a back kick back.
Or a spinning up kick. You don't want, you watch.
You don't want to be hit by these things.
Well, watch Chris Bowie.
Even in semi-contact.
Yeah, you heard of Chris Bowie, Bowie. So when he got knocked out by Alfie Lewis's spinning kick, is a video on YouTube. Perfectly timed spinning hook kick. Why? Because it's points fighting. Perfectly timed. Boom. And Alfie Lewis wasn't holding back.
No, they didn't know.
And they're both of them.
I've listened. I've heard someone's jaw break from the other side of the room.
Yeah,
with Choco Denham doing a spinning kick and breaking someone's jaw.
But I think a lot of the problem with perception of point fighting today is they're like, well, it's just like Formula One, isn't it? Everyone's trying to be gamey, and it's like, when you've got the people who are pulling their glove off their hand to gain a few extra inches, or time out, ref, to adjust the shin pad, that takes them a minute while the coach is in the rear. It's like these are the people who just want to win. These are the sportsmen. But in its raw form,
I'll use another word than sport, but it's like footballers feigning injury,
exactly.
So they can get to injury time. So they can still get to do some penalty shootouts and whatever. But that's what modern stuff is about, which is why I think, but the unfortunate thing about semi-contact, and there's always been, is there's never been any drug testing. There's never been any, filming of it and so on, for the points.
Right.
Who scored first.
Yes.
And so that's what's made and destroyed semi-contact.
Because you got some awful refs.
Yeah, because and of course the refs and a lot are not trained, and they just throw anybody there, and the poor guy there, he just doesn't got a clue,
it was angle dependent and the ref's not moving on the mat, that sort of thing.
That's right. And then they invent this, 3 referees. Don't be stupid, because you always end up with 2 referees deciding on one, because if they don't move around the ring enough, then you're going to get 2 on one side and 1 on the other.
Yeah.
With the referee and the 2 judges, you're going to get the referee unable to give a decision because the other 2, are together and score a point that he can't see. They can't see his point. He can't give a majority decision. And so that's the problem with 3-point refereeing. It's awful.
Yeah,
it's bloody awful, and I hated it. That's one of the reasons I didn't like refereeing.
But you
stand there and you go, well, there you are. There's a point.
Yeah, but to be fair to you, old man, to be fair to you, you're a bloody good referee.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm just saying. I one of the reasons I was like sort of spurred on to talk about sort of this on this podcast was not just this Joe Rogan thing with Wonder Boy, is that but it's also like I often watch a lot of these the Wing Chun videos, right? And I'm not poking holes at Wing Chun. It is what it is. Great, fantastic. There's some great people, some not so great. But you see a lot in the Wing Chun sort of the Wing Chun guys. In order to train sparring, they will don some MMA gloves and a bloody cage on their face, and then they'll proceed to sort of try and apply the what's essentially Qi Sao, but a bit looser. The techniques. They apply the techniques and fail the strategy. Yes, and I'll give you an example, right? You watch any sort of, this is Wing Chun doing full contact. It's number one, it's bloody crap a lot of the time, because all they're doing is they're chasing each other with straight punches.
They're trying to promote the standard fighting process, or the style, if you like.
Yeah.
Rather than promote the strategy that can be used with those techniques. Because they've got no strategy, therefore they end up just throwing the punches.
Certain people have got no strategy. Let's be careful, because there are some people who have got good strategy, right?
Well, yeah, I haven't seen any yet.
No, I haven't seen many of those either.
So,
but it's
they
like
do it great in front of a class. This guy's throw the punch at me. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Oh yeah. Well, that was great. That was perfect. That was going to work. I saw a guy once who knew he could beat this guy who was doing the Wing Chun, but the Wing Chun guy was desperately trying to prove how good Wing Chun was. So he just kept chasing him around the room with his punches. And that guy kicked him, around the legs and stuff like that. But obviously he didn't want to hurt him.
So he's not going to, he's going to continue on.
He just kept coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's the point of that? I mean, at the end of the day, you might as well just kick him and just have done with it. Just snap his leg or something. Just say, well, there you go. Stop frigging chasing me like that.
But you're right. It's at what point are you so sort of convinced to prove your point that it becomes unrealistic sort of...
It happened to me. I went to a guy he was a really nice guy. He did a karate club, and he just kept, I says, oh, I'd love to come and train. It was in Milton Keynes. Yeah. When I was down in Milton Keynes, and he came down and he says, oh, do you want to do a bit of sparring? Okay. And I was only like a yellow sash or something, maybe a purple sash. And yeah, great. Okay. And he's chasing me around the room and throwing all this kicks and all this lot. And every time he threw his kick, I just swept him. I just kicked his leg from under him. And every time he'd get up and go, oh yeah, good, do it again. But then eventually he was trying to kick me from the floor. And I was just moving around him, and he just couldn't avoid the sweep. No matter what he was doing, he couldn't avoid the sweep. Eventually, I had to say, oh, we'll have to stop now. I'm a bit tired. I just had to pretend that I was knackered, because all these students were looking at us and everything. Yeah. And it was just embarrassing. But that's not because, I was a great fighter. It's because he wasn't particularly good. But that's not the point. The point is, he was desperate to prove how good his style was, despite the fact that it obviously wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I was good. It's just that he had a major flaw in his tactics.
Right.
And that was, he was desperate to hit me. and you know, what can you do?
Yeah.
You're going to keep on hitting me.
Well,
Then I'll just sweep you. And you never hit me once.
Well, you know, it's a similar, dare I say it, strategy to what would you do if that was a semi-contact match?
Yes.
If someone's desperate to hit you,
yeah,
well, all right, come in, boom, you know, you counter them, bloody sidekick or something, you know, or sweep them, you know, and it's that same. But what you're talking about there is a sort of strategy that you otherwise learned from semi-contact that, you know, served you well, or you know, it's a strategy and a tactic. You know, it's a response to a bad tactic. Yeah, it's a response to an individual who as nice as he was, had no desire to show that his tactics were limited. Yeah. He just desperately tried to use the same tactic constantly, and I think that goes with an awful lot. I mean, you look at the First World War, try to use the same tactics that you would have used in the bloody 18th century. And of course, they were bloody useless once the guys had big guns. Yeah, machine guns. What's the point? Why do you keep on sending them into battle? What about the bloody? What about the bloody Chinese in the Boxer Rebellion wearing mirrors? Oh, we'll reflect the bullets. And the Polish with the cavalry against the German panzers. Although, to be fair, they did strike some good victories in that, by the way. But there you go. But not for long. Yeah. So, in closing, old man, we got to finish. We'll finish up. Go on, say something prophetic to finish with. Prophetic, you know, important, great. No, yeah, I don't know what to say really. I just know that in learning Lao, you know, all my life, I just know that the strategy is sound. It's the tactics and the fighting strategy and tactics that are the most important part of doing a martial art, no matter what martial art it is. And I can see an awful lot of martial arts that are really, really good. And the techniques are great, and the people can do amazing kicks and amazing speed and beautiful body flows, flying kicks, this, that, and the other, spinning kicks. But at the end of the day, the tactics are flawed. And I often think, I wonder how good they would be if they had a decent tactic, how well they could have done if they'd have just understood how to use the ability they have. And you can see that with respect to Taekwondo, some fantastic movers, some fantastic martial artists with absolutely no strategy whatsoever. You cannot apply that strategy in competition, some of it, and they've had to adapt, haven't they? Oh God, they have, and there are some good Taekwondo fighters, but but looking back, if you can think how good these people were, but had no strategy whatsoever, and it was kind of embarrassing fighting them. But yes, hopefully now they've started to get the idea that a punch is faster than a kick. No, I'm kidding. But wonderful. Well, that was a good conversation. I like that. I don't know whether you're going to agree or disagree with us, guys. Whatever. You've got thoughts on it. If you've got thoughts on it, send us a message. We love to read your messages. And by the way, I'd just like to thank all the new subscribers on YouTube. It's going up. I'm bringing out. Thanks, people. That's great. At some point, we're going to have to do another, Laogar vid, I think. I've been, I was down there doing the Tiger Fork the day before yesterday. Right. Yeah, in the morning doing the Tiger Fork right now because I've moved everything out the room. But we got apricots in the garden and they're all over right now. Now, you want to pick your apricots, old man, shoot the Tiger Fork and pick them. That's how to do it. Okay. You obviously you haven't seen how big an apricot tree is. Then throw it. I'd have to run before it landed, that's for sure. Brilliant. Yeah. Anyway, right, guys, thank you so much. I'm going off back to watch the end of Columbo. Right. And I'll see. I gotta find out. Elizabeth on driving lesson. Right, okay. All right. Guys, thanks for joining us. And once again, any questions, send them in. We really appreciate you listening. We really do. It's good, and stay in touch. We'll see you again on another episode of the Kung Fu Podcast. My name is James Still, joined as ever by the illustrious, the notorious Mr. Steve Newby from Canada.
And when are you going to start paying me for this, James?
What? Sorry, I thought you said get paid. They sound brassic here.
We should get some subscribers.
Yeah, we should.
Get some. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we need to.
Everyone else is doing it.
You kidding? Everyone else is talking about stuff that people want to hear about. I think us whittling on about this. Yeah. Nobody wants to know. You're a select few, our 2 listeners.
Well, all donations will help. We had to pay for this bloody podcast.
No. Stop begging. Right, guys, take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.
Okay. Bye then.
Bye.
You tight gits.
Concentrate on your enemy's weak points. The eyes, the throat, the knackers.
Hi guys, thanks so much for joining us on the Kung Fu Podcast. If you like that and you want to find out more about us, you can head over to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or YouTube and find us under SJN Martial Arts. And also guys, this podcast is available on Podbean and iTunes. So until next time, take care of yourselves and we'll see you again on the Kung Fu Podcast.
Karate punch is like an iron bar, whack. A Kung Fu punch is like an iron chain with an iron ball attached to the end and it go whang.
Can you break a log like that?
Don't know. Never been attacked by tree.